The Envious Farmer and His Daughter. Once upon a time, in a small village called Umokwe, there lived a farmer named Alhaji Bawa. Alhaji Bawa was not like the other farmers in the village. He was full of envy and greed. While the other farmers worked hard on their land, planting and caring for their crops, Alhaji Bawa spent most of his time plotting evil. Alhaji Bawa was always jealous when he saw his fellow farmers' crops growing well. He couldn't stand seeing their joy when they had a good harvest. So instead of working hard on his own farm, he would sneak into their farms at night and poison their crops. He would scatter a deadly powder over their plants, and by morning, all the crops would be withered and dying. The farmers were heartbroken. Their hard work had gone to waste. Some of them cried and prayed for a solution, but they couldn't understand why their crops kept dying. Many of them became poor because they had no food to sell or eat. Alhaji Bawa had a daughter named Amina. Amina was as evil as her father. While her father poisoned the crops, Amina would sneak into the farms during the day and steal whatever was left. She would take the ripe yams, corn, and vegetables and hid them in the family's barn. Even though they don't plant much on their own farm, Alhaji Bawa and Amina always had plenty of food. This made the villagers suspicious, but no one could prove anything. One day, the farmers decided to hold a meeting. They were tired of losing their crops and wanted to find out who was behind their evil deeds. Many of them had already sold their animals to survive, and some could no longer send their children to school. Life was getting harder and harder, and something needed to be done. As the farmers gathered under the big bamboo tree in the center of the village, they shared their sorrowful stories. One farmer, Mr. Okonkwo, spoke with tears in his eyes. I don't know what we have done to deserve this. My family is starving. We have no more crops, no more money. Our children cry every night because they are hungry. Another farmer, Mama Ngozi, added, this has to stop. We must find the person who is doing this. If we don't, we will all lose our farms and our homes. The villagers agreed to stay awake at night and guide their farms. They decided to watch each other's land to catch the culprits. That night, Alhaji Bawa was unaware of the villagers' plan. He set out, carrying his poisonous powder, ready to ruin more crops. Amina, as usual, planned to follow after him in the morning to steal whatever she could find. But the villagers were ready. They hid behind bushes and trees, their eyes wide open, watching every movement in the dark. As Alhaji Bawa approached Malam Danjuma's farm, the old man saw a shadow moving near his cornfield. He quietly signaled the others, and they all waited silently. When Alhaji Bawa began to scatter the poisons on the crops, the villagers jumped out and caught him red-handed. Alhaji Bawa tried to escape, but the farmers surrounded him. He was trapped. The villagers were shocked and angry. They couldn't believe that it was Alhaji Bawa, the man they had trusted and respected, who had been causing them so much pain. We trusted you, Alhaji Bawa. How could you do this to us? Cried Mama Ngozi. Alhaji Bawa had no words. He stood there, ashamed and afraid. The farmers tied him up and took him to the village chief. As they walked back to the village, Amina, who was on her way to the farms, saw the crowd. She quickly hid behind the tree, realizing that her father's evil deeds had been discovered. She knew that if they found her too, she would be in big trouble. The news of Alhaji Bawa's capture spread like wildfire. The whole village gathered at the chief's palace, their faces filled with anger and betrayal. Alhaji Bawa, once a respected man, now stood before the village. His hand hung low in shame, but the villagers were not satisfied. They knew that someone else was involved, someone who has been stealing their crops for months. As the crowd grew larger, the village chief, Chief Eze, stepped forward. He was an old and wise man, known for his fairness and deep knowledge of tradition. He raised his hand and the crowd fell silent. Alhaji Bawa, Chief Eze began, his voice thin. You have brought great sorrow to this village. Your greed and envy have caused the suffering of many. But we know you did not do this alone. Who helped you in this evil plan? Alhaji Bawa hesitated. He thought of his daughter, Amina,
who was still hidden in the shadows, listening to every word. He loved her dearly, and he couldn't bear to see her punished. But the villagers pressed on, demanding to know the truth. "Tell us the truth, or your punishments will be worse," shouted Mama Ngozi, who had lost almost everything because of Alhaji Bawa's action. Alhaji Bawa felt the weight of the axes on him. Finally, he spoke. "It was my daughter, Amina. She will steal the crops after I have poisoned them. She did this to help me. I am the one to blame. Please don't harm her." The crowd gasped. They couldn't believe that a young girl who they had seen grow up in the village could be part of such wickedness. Chief Eze's face grew even more serious. "Bring Amina here," he ordered. But Amina had had enough. She knew her father had confessed, and now the villagers would be looking for her. She couldn't let them catch her, so she ran into the thick forest behind the village, where she hoped to hid until things calmed down. The villagers searched for Amina, but she was nowhere to be found. As days turned into weeks, they began to think that she had left the village for good, but strange things began to happen. The farmers who had lost their crops started finding strange marks on their field circles, drawn in the dirty stones arranged in odd patterns, and broken branches placed at the entrance of their farms. Some farmers reportedly hearing whispers at night, voices that seemed to come from nowhere, saying, "Your crops will never grow." The strange occurrences frightened the villagers. They began to believe that Amina had come to the forest to learn dark magic and was using it to curse their farms. Fear spread through the village, and soon no one dared to go near the forest. Chief Eze, sensing the growing fear, called a meeting of the village elders. They decided to consult with the village's oldest and wisest herbalists, Baba Oluwu, who lived deep in the forest. Baba Oluwu was known for his knowledge of ancient magic and his ability to communicate with spirits. The next day, Chief Eze and the elders made their way through the dense forest to Baba Oluwu's hut. The journey was long and filled with strange sounds, but they were determined to find answers. When they arrived, Baba Oluwu was sitting outside his hut, surrounded by herbs and charms. He looked at them with eyes that seemed to see into their very souls. "What brings you to my humble home?" Baba Olu asked in a deep, gravy voice. Chief Eze explained the situation, the evil deeds of Alhaji Bawa and his daughter, the strange marks on the farms, and the villagers' growing fear. Baba Olu listened carefully. When Chief Eze finished, the old man closed his eyes and whispered some words to the wind. The air around them grew still, and the sounds of the forest faded away. "Amina has indeed gone into the dark side of the forest," Baba Olu finally said. "She had found an ancient spirit that feeds on the sorrow and fear of the villagers. The spirit has promised her power in exchange for the continuous suffering of your people. To break this curse, you must confront Amina and the spirit. But beware, this will not be an easy task." The elders exchanged worried glances. They knew the forest was dangerous, filled with spirits and creatures that no one had seen in years. But they also knew they had no choice. If they don't act, their village will fall into ruin. Baba Oluwa gave them a special potion made from rare herbs. "This potion will protect you from the spirit's magic," he said, "but it will not last long. You must find Amina and destroy the spirit's hold on her before the potion wears off." The elders thanked Baba Oluwa and made their way back to the village, where they prepared for the dangerous journey ahead. Meanwhile, Amina, deep in the forest, was growing stronger each day. She could feel the power of the ancient spirit coursing through her veins, and she was determined to make the villagers pay for trying to capture her father. As the sun set on the village that night, the farmers locked their doors and whispered prayers, hoping that the evil would soon be defeated. But the darkness was far from over. The real battle was just beginning. The village was silent, save for the whispering wind that seemed to carry secrets through the air. The elders prepared themselves for the journey into the heart of the forest, knowing that this was their last chance to save their village.
Each elder carried a small vial of Baba Oluwa's protective portion and a charm for courage. As they entered the dark forest, the trees seemed to close in around them, and the path became narrow and twisted. Strange noises echoed through the trees, soft whispers, distant laughter, and the rustling of leaves. The deeper they went, the more the forest seemed alive, almost as if it was watching them. After hours of walking, the elders reached a clearing where the trees formed a perfect circle. In the center stood Amina, but she was no longer the girl they knew. Her eyes glowed with a dark, unnatural light, and a strange mist surrounded her. She held a staff made of twisted wood, and her face was twisted with anger and power. "You shouldn't have come here," Amina said, her voice echoing in the still air. "The spirit has promised me power, and with it I will take my revenge on all of you." Chief Eze stepped forward, holding the vial of Baba Oluwa's portion tightly. "Amina, we are here to end this madness. You have caused enough suffering. Release the spirit and come back to the village with us." But Amina only laughed, a cold, chilling sound that made the elder shiver. "I will never return. The spirit has promised me more than the village ever could. I will rule over you all with fear and darkness." As she spoke, the ground beneath her began to tremble, and the mist thickened, taking the shape of a tall shadow figure. The spirit had awakened, drawn by Amina's hatred and the presence of the elders. Its eye glowed red, and its voice boomed like thunder. "Leave this place, old men, or face my wrath," the spirit commanded. But the elders stood their ground, their hearts filled with determination. Chief Eze uncooked the vial and poured the portion on the ground, chanting the words Baba Oluwa had taught them. The portion hissed as it touched the earth, and the bright light began to spread, pushing back the darkness. The spirit howled in anger, and Amina screamed as the light reached her. She tried to resist, but the power of the portion was too strong. The light grew brighter, surrounding Amina and the spirit, forcing them back into the depths of the forest. "Amina, you must let go of the spirit," Chief Eze shouted over the noise. "It's not too late to come back to us." But Amina's face was twisted with rage and fear. She knew that if she let go of the spirit, she would lose all the power it has given her. But as the light grew stronger, she began to feel the weight of her choices. The spirit had promised her power, but all it had brought her was loneliness and darkness. Finally, with tears streaming down her face, Amina dropped the staff and cried out, "I don't want this anymore. I don't want to hurt anyone else." The spirit let out a final furious roar as the light enclosed it, and then, with a blinding flash, it was gone. The mist evaporated, the ground stopped trembling, and the forest became silent once more. Amina collapsed to the ground, exhausted and broken. The elders rushed to her side, lifting her gently. She looked up at Chief Eze, her eyes filled with regret. "I am so sorry. I don't mean for things to go this far," she whispered. Chief Eze nodded, his heart heavy with sorrow. "It's over now, Amina. The spirit is gone, but the damage it caused will take time to heal. You must come back with us and make things right." The journey back to the village was long and quiet. Amina, weak and remorseful, walked with the elders, her heart heavy with guilty. She knew she had hurt many people, and the road to forgiveness would be hard. When they arrived in the village, the people were awaiting. They looked at Amina with a mixture of fear and pity. Chief Eze told the villagers everything that had happened, and agreed that Amina should stay in the village and work to repair the damage she had caused. Alhaji Bawa, still in the village chief's custody, wept when he saw his daughter. He knew that his actions had led her down the dark path, and he begged the villagers for forgiveness. The villagers, though angry and hurt, decided to show mercy. They allowed Alhaji Bawa and Amina to stay in the village, but they would have to work hard to regain the trust they had lost. Amina spent her days helping the farmers rebuild their crops, planting seeds, and caring for the land she once tried to destroy. Alhaji Bawa, too, worked tirelessly to make amends for his actions. Slowly, the village became to recover, and the farmers' field flourished once again. The moral of this story is that envy and greed only lead to destruction. Alhaji Bawa's jealousy of his fellow farmers brought misery to his village and his family. Amina's desire for power, driven by her father's influence, led her to make terrible choices. But in the end, they both learned that the true strength and happiness come from helping others and being contented with what you have. As time passed, the villagers forgave Alhaji Bawa and Amina, understanding that everyone makes mistakes, but that it is never too late to change and do the right thing. The village returned to its peaceful ways, and the story of the envious farmer and his daughter was told to children as a warning of the dangers of envy and greed. The end. Thank you guys for watching, and please come back for more stories. I love you.